Hey guys, this is Will, a third and long. Welcome to my Week 11 top 5 games for upset alert for this weekend. So we'll be looking at the top 5 games where these teams should be on upset alert. Now, I'm not saying that they are going to lose, but they should not sleep on their opponent this weekend. So hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get started. So the first team that I think that could potentially be on upset alert this weekend is at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. 8-1 Texas Longhorns versus TCU at 4-5. So Texas comes in as 12-point favorites here. So they're highly favored. Now, I'm not saying that TCU is going to beat Texas. I'm not saying that at all. Texas, supposedly, they've had Murphy the last 2 weeks starting at quarterback, but supposedly Quinn Ewers should be back for this weekend. That's a massive pickup for them. But TCU is a lot better than their 4-5 record shows. This is actually a pretty decent team. If the season started today, they'd probably go 7-5 to 8-4, best case scenario. But they're a very talented team. They do have weapons. This is an in-state rivalry game, and this is also the last time that TCU will be playing Texas. They have absolutely nothing to lose. They want to beat them before they leave for the SEC next year. So the want is there. Texas, they are cruising to the end of their season right now. Quinn Ewers supposedly coming back at quarterback to start Saturday. Which Quinn Ewers are we getting? The guy hasn't played in about 3 weeks. He's banged up, hasn't practiced with the team, so he could be a little rusty. But then again, he could be back to old Quinn Ewers. He could be throwing 50-yard bombs. We don't yet know just because we haven't seen him on the field yet. So there is the potential there that they could just be a little off of their game. Now, their odds of winning definitely went up with him starting over Murphy because he obviously is the better quarterback. A lot of people have him going first round this year. If it's the Quinn Ewers of old, then he should be throwing 50-yard bombs to Worthy down the field. If it's not, they might have to rely on the running game more with Brooks. Can Quinn Ewers get hit? Can he take a sack? We don't know that yet. Thankfully for Texas, they do have one of the best defensive lines in the country. TCU will not be able to run on Texas. They're going to get a lot of pressure on their quarterback here. But I'm just saying, Texas should not sleep on TCU this weekend due to them having a banged up quarterback, and TCU have absolutely nothing to lose. So I have Texas down as my first team that should be on upset alert. Next game, it's a late one. 10:30 p.m. on Fox, 7-3 USC versus 8-1 Oregon Ducks. Oregon 15.5-point favorites here. That's a massive spread. That's why there's the potential for upset alert. Again, I'm not saying that the Trojans are going to beat the Ducks. I'm not saying that at all. But this is two of the best quarterbacks in the country. Whenever you have Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman champ, the supposed number 1 pick in the NFL draft, starting for the Trojans, you cannot overlook them. Their offense is as good as any offense in all of college football. It's just as good as Washington's. It's just as good as the Ducks. They can run. They can throw. They have Caleb Williams. They were in a shootout last weekend versus the Washington Huskies, who beat Oregon. So they can definitely put up points. And whenever someone can score 50 points, you don't want to overlook them. You want to take them serious. Now, USC's defense is just a hot mess. It is complete garbage. They will definitely give up a lot of points there. So that's the saving grace for the Ducks. Now, the Ducks, I'm not taking them lightly at all. They are the best one-loss team to me. They are the one team here that I would not want to be playing them right now. They are the hottest team right now in all of college football. They have a top 5 offense. They have the number 3 offense. They have the number 11 defense. This team is stacked. They can beat you on special teams. They can beat you on defense. They can beat you running the ball with Irving. They can beat you with Bo Nix passing the ball. So this team is very talented. But USC gave Washington a scare last week. Now, the Ducks are a very physical team, but the Trojans had a shootout with Utah. You know, that game was like a 40-40 game, basically. So they can still score on very physical teams. So this game has the potential to be close. Thus, there is the upset alert there. Oregon must beat USC. They must be really physical first half, tire them out, beat them up. The next game that I'm looking at for a potential upset, again, I'm not saying that the Team that's not favored will win, but the team that is favored should definitely take this game serious. This is a pretty obvious one here. So we have at 12 p.m. on Fox, number 3 Michigan at 9-0 versus number 10 Penn State at 8-1. This is a game of top 10 matchup here. Both of these teams vying for control of the Big Ten potentially, but also vying for a playoff spot. This is a really big deal. Michigan has a lot of off-the-field stuff going on right now. They have the complete fiasco with Jim Harbaugh. There's a lot going on there. People don't know if he is going to be suspended for this game. I don't think it necessarily matters this game. This is a very talented team. They've been preparing themselves for a while for something to come down. Either way, if he gets suspended, they might legally get a stay on that anyways, and he would still be able to coach. Michigan, 4-point favorites here, but on the ESPN analytics, they actually have Penn State as the favored team because they are at home. This game is at 12 p.m., but it really should be at 7 or 8 p.m. Should have been the whiteout game because this game is massive with massive implications. Michigan obviously has one of the better running back rooms in the country. They have Donovan Edwards. They have Blake Corum. They have J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. A lot of people have him going first round. Some people have him in the Heisman conversation this year. They have the number 1 total defense. They have the number 1 passing defense. They have the number 1 rushing defense. They have the number 1 defense points per game at like 6.8 points per game. This team is number 1 in every defensive category, but they haven't played anyone yet. So they're way more talented than Penn State. But will Penn State actually putting up a fight throw off Michigan just because they haven't been challenged this year, and it just might catch them off guard? Sometimes you are so good that once someone actually challenges you, you're just caught off guard because you haven't had a challenge yet this whole year. You've been curb stomping every team that you played. So that's why there's the upset potential here. Penn State's been in a dogfight before. They did play Ohio State. Now, the Buckeyes' offense is nowhere near as good as Michigan's offense because of Kyle McCord, but they're a very physical team at the line of scrimmage. Buckeyes have the number 3 total defense in the country. So they've played a really good defensive team. Michigan has it. And Penn State has a top 5 defense also, only giving up 15 points per game. They are shutting people down. They are very physical, led by Manny Diaz on the defensive side of the ball. Their biggest thing that's holding them back, they have absolutely no vertical threats for Drew Aller, having a very strong season, but they can't unleash him because they can't throw the ball vertically down the field. Michigan has to take them serious. A lot of people are actually starting to pick Penn State for this game to win the game, not because they're more talented, not because they're better, but just because it's week 11 and this is finally the first challenge for Michigan because they've had the number 110th strength of schedule up to this point. They have a tough couple last games, but they just might be caught off guard here. So that's why they should be on upset alert. Do not sleep on Penn State. That's your ticket to the playoffs, is beating them. The next game that we have where this team should be on upset alert, we have at 3:30 p.m. on Fox, number 18, Utah at 7-2 versus number 5, Washington at 9-0. Washington, 9.5-point favorites here. So a pretty decent spread for an in-conference matchup on a in-conference ranked versus ranked team. Utah at 7-2. They don't have Cam Rising. They do not have a good offense at all. They average about 300 yards per game on offense. That's not good. But they have a top 15 defense. And it is a very physical, fast, and talented defense. Kyle Whittingham is the most underappreciated coach in the country. Hands down, it's not even close. But Utah is extremely physical. Now, for people saying that their offense would get blown out and not be able to keep up with Washington, if you think that, then just go watch the USC game. USC's offense is just as good as Washington's, and Utah got really physical with them. They beat them at the line of scrimmage, and their offense scored on the USC Trojans defense. Now, the Trojans defense is completely pathetic. Obviously, they would give up 50 points to anyone. But Washington's defense isn't much better. So let's just be honest there. So Utah can definitely make this a shootout, even though they have a bad offense, just because Washington's defense hasn't stopped anyone this year except for Arizona State. And they only average 15 points a game anyway, so that's not impressive at all. Anyways, Utah can make this game due to how physical they are. They could get pressure on Penix. They can shut their run game down, which the run game the last 2 weeks has been one of the bigger things for Washington because they are a pass-first team. But Washington, they still have Michael Penix. He is number 1 or 2 in the Heisman right now. They have Johnson at running back, who's probably going to get the run game shut down this weekend. So it will all come down to that extremely talented wide receiver core. Will Michael Penix have time to hit Odunze vertically down the field and all of the other wide receivers? They are very talented. Utah doesn't necessarily have the corners to carry a wide receiver core that deep, but Penix has to have time to get them the ball. That's where the upset potential lies because Washington's strength of schedule is not that good for the rest of the year. They cannot afford to lose a game here. If they have one loss, they're out of the playoffs because their schedule hasn't been tough enough this year. Now, it really has been tough. It's just there is going to be other one-loss teams behind them pushing for even tougher schedules. And Washington could still potentially have the Oregon Ducks in the Pac-12 championship. They cannot afford to be going to the Pac-12 championship with one loss going into that game. That's not going to work. They have to beat Utah, but there's the potential for an upset there. The final upset alert game that we'll be looking at, to me, is another obvious one. At 7 p.m. on ESPN, number 9, Ole Miss at 8-1 versus number 2, Georgia at 9-0. Georgia, 11-point favorites here. So Ole Miss, they have Quinton Junkins. They have one of the best running back rooms in the country also. And they have Jackson Dart at quarterback. The main thing that's going to happen here, even with Harris at wide receiver, Georgia's going to concentrate on shutting down Quinton Junkins, completely shutting down that talented run game, and forcing Jackson Dart to have to beat them vertically through the air. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on him. He will be getting hit a lot, but he's going to have to beat them through the passing game because Georgia has a very good run defense. So that's what they're going to force Ole Miss into. Now, Lane Kiffin is an offensive guru, so I'm not putting that past him. They have a decent defense. They don't have a good defense. They don't have a bad defense, but they have a decent, I'd say it's a above average defense with Ole Miss. Georgia, Brock Bowers supposedly still not playing. They have Carson Beck, who has been having really good last 3 weeks, even without Brock Bowers. He has had his best games hitting targets down the field. They still don't have the best running game. That's one thing that's lacking, but they don't have a bad running game. I don't think Ole Miss will be able to shut down their run game that they do have. So look for Georgia to try to keep the ball on the ground, try to control the clock, try to control the line of scrimmage. They have a top 10 defense. So like I said, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is not a slouch. They've won low-scoring games. They've won high-scoring games. They want to be Georgia's first loss. They want to knock them off. They want to beat them. They want to get into the playoff consideration. Now, if Bama wins out in the SEC West, then Ole Miss cannot clinch the West, cannot make the SEC championship. But if they beat Georgia, they throw college football into complete chaos, as you would have 7 to 8 one-loss teams potentially at the end of the year vying for those Final Four playoff spots. And they would definitely be one of them with one of the better resumes so far. So Ole Miss wants that. Lane Kiffin wants that. Don't believe that they don't care. They want to beat Georgia. They want chaos. Kiffin is chaos, so he lives for this. There's the potential for Ole Miss to upset Georgia. Like I said, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but this game has the potential to be very close and could just come down to whoever has the ball last. So that's my breakdown of the top 5 potential teams that should be on upset alert for Week 11. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.